Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sarah Khan, even though we experience joy in worldly pursuits, upon reflection, we can validate that the joy from reflected mediums is short-lived. Though knowledge tells us that the real source of everlasting joy is within us, how does one validate that through experience? The joy one experiences upon embarking on the spiritual path, Karma Bhakti Jnana Yoga, seems very fulfilling indeed and has much longer shelf life. Yet it doesn't last forever. Yes, that's correct, Sarah. Okay, so knowledge tells us. Are you there, Sarah? Where are you? I can't see.
Yes, Mr. Janki, I'm right here.
Even though we experience joy in worldly pursuits, upon reflection, we validate that joy from reflected mediums is short-lived. Okay, so you know very easily that any source from the world that gives you pleasure, that pleasure is short-lived.
Yeah.
Knowledge tells us that the real source of everlasting joy is within us. How does that validate through experience? It's an interesting question. Can you validate? Knowledge tells us that the everlasting source of joy is within us. And how are we supposed to know that through our own experience? Well, you can't. How can you know it through your own experience? Is one way of answering the question. How can you know until you have realized the self? How would you ever know that? So, Sarah has given the example, the point that if you do Karma Bhakti Jnana, you can easily see that it does last longer, but even that ends. So it's just less short-lived. So that is also correct. That aspect is also correct. But the question of how to validate that real joy is within ourselves. So Sarah, first point to your question is, when we say a question, we should hone it down to the most important aspect. In your case, the question is, I believe, how can we use experience, though knowledge tells us everlasting bliss is within, how can we know that through experience? Is that your question?
Actually, Sister Janki, perhaps my question should have been geared towards the latter half of my point, because what I wanted to share was that through the three yogas, it does seem like the joy has a much longer shelf life, yet it fluctuates. So once again, there's the desires are higher, yet we are still latching on to some desire and expecting a sense of fulfillment or joy through that.
Yes. So question is, that statement is correct.
Actually, I'm not sure, Janki, what my question is, but just the experience of joy still fluctuating despite aspiring towards higher values and ideals. So is that normal? Is that okay? Maybe that's my question. I don't.
Whatever you are going through, not Sarah, everybody in the class, Whatever you are going through, whatever you are feeling, whatever you are experiencing, it is normal.
Mhm.
Please don't think that if you experience it, it can be abnormal. How can that be possible, right? What is normal? Whatever I go through, that is normal, that is natural. So, how can I not validate my own experience? I am going through something. Anyone who
Mhm.
tells me that I'm wrong in going through it is wrong himself. So nobody in this world has the right to validate my experience. Okay. If I feel
Mhm.
something, I think something, well, I do. So, so firstly, Sarah, nobody can tell you whether you should or you shouldn't. Nobody can
Mhm.
tell you that nobody else, but no, you alone go through it. Nobody else goes through it. Even that is a nonsense statement because, well, I do. So, what is the point of telling me other people don't go through it? That doesn't make any sense to me. If you don't go through a
Mhm.
problem, तो मैं क्या करूं? I have my problem, right?
Mhm.
So you neither want to know whether other people go through it, nor do you want anyone else to tell you whether what you're going through is okay to sort of go through. Well, the fact is we are going through it. Now that we are
Mhm.
going through it, we have to know what to do about it. So it is obvious in this particular case, it is obvious that we will not have everlasting bliss until we realize the self. It can't happen. That means
Mhm.
my bliss will always be fluctuating until I'm an enlightened soul.
Okay.
This is going to be my life, anybody's life. If they are not enlightened, to the extent they're not enlightened at least, bliss will fluctuate, obviously.
Mhm.
Nothing else can happen. But a very important point is also this thing that I do not want anyone to validate or tell me whether something is normal or not. I'm going through it, and therefore, whatever I'm going through requires solution. Whether anyone else goes through it or not is their problem, not my problem. I hope everybody in the class is very clear about this because this is one of the ways that human beings get bullied because they are told that whatever they are going through is not supposed to be gone through or other people don't go through it or some such rubbish. I'm
Mhm.
through it. If you know how to solve it, solve it. If you don't know how to solve it, stop getting in the way. That should be our attitude towards anyone who gives us unnecessary advice. So is your basic question okay, Sarah?
Yes, Sister Janki. Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay, so where were we last time? We were discussing the chapter culmination of life. Okay, so when we started the chapter, we started with the concept about what is the role of relation. So, what is the role of relation? Everybody, in the how you know what you know class, all these people are telling me, don't make it sound religious, okay? Religion has become a bad word. Imagine that. Like you say, oh, it's sounding religious. Don't do that. I mean, why? Not because they are in any way affected. They just want this knowledge to go out to people, and they feel people will not take it if you let them know that this is religion. I would like to say that I take only religious classes. I don't do anything else. But this is religion. But however, religion for most people means what? It means some belief. It means some superstition. It means some ritual. It means some, I don't know what it means. Religion is very, very simple. Religion is about purifying ourselves. There are many different so called religions, but they're all doing exactly the same thing. Just as there are many engineering colleges and they all teach engineering. Now, all the teachers do not teach the same thing. All the professors do not give the same examples. All the teachers may not even follow the same curriculum. But every engineering college teaches engineering in their way, obviously, based on who they are teaching, what is going to be the needs, etc. Similarly, in religion, different religions have come about in different periods of time. There were different situations when these religions came, but whatever they taught and however they taught it, the point was always the same. human beings have to purify themselves if they wish to find any kind of stability in their lives. To the extent we lack the stability, to the extent we lack the happiness, the productivity, the growth, to that extent we are uneducated on some eternal truths of life. When we educate ourselves on those eternal truths, we will be as productive, as happy, as comfortable as anybody else in the world. There's no There's no special people of God. God is not blessed some particular people. You do the work, you get the result. A very simple equation in life. You do the work, you get the result. So religion only tells us what is that work you have to do to purify yourself. And different people at different times may have needed different things. So different teachers said it in different way, told different stories, all beautiful stories. You read the stories that Christ told or that Buddha told. They're all beautiful stories. They all elucidate a certain point. Sometimes the two very different stories are elucidating the same point in two very, very different ways, but both equally beautiful. Like the Gita says, na, beautiful line. It's there in the Bible also. It says, in the Gita, it says that it was sung by many sages in many different ways, full of logic and certainty. You studied that. I hope you remember it. Um, and in the Bible, it says that many people will come in many parts of the world and tell you, Christ says, and I will tell you what I have told you in different tongues. All said the same thing, for heaven's sake, grow up. So, religion is about purification. Purification is nothing but recognition of the truths of life. If you recognize the truth, how on earth can you be impure? Not possible, isn't it? So, what is the ultimate truth of life? That this identity which we have taken upon ourselves of the body, mind, intellect is a very limited identity. So, we should be able to undertake our whole identity. Why should we take only a limited identity? Suppose I believe myself to be only my body, then I would be limited, right, in my understanding of who I was. I can only see this body and I think I'm only the body. Then I'd be limited in my understanding because obviously I have feelings, right? I have thoughts. So why don't I see myself as my whole being? Why should I not see myself as my whole being? So besides my body, mind, intellect, I am the truth. And that is way greater and vaster and grander than anything this body, mind, and intellect can give me, right? So what am I stuck there for? But I am stuck there. And why am I stuck there?
Desires.
Yes, because I believe that I'm getting
Happiness.
some joy out of it. I believe so. And why do I believe so? Because I am getting some joy out of it. But what I'm not recognizing is that by restricting my growth, I'm restricting the joy I get out of it. In other words, if I could only enjoy, just think of it like this. This is a very stupid example, but think of it like this. Suppose I could only enjoy sight and all the other four senses were close to me. I would see, of course, many beautiful sights, and I'd say I'm very happy to just see. But the fact of the matter is, I have denied myself for no rhyme or reason the other four senses. So why would I do that? I can see also, I can hear also, I can smell, I can taste, I can touch. I have these senses. Why don't I use them? But suppose I refuse. I say, no, I'm very happy with sight alone. Then people will feel sorry for us and say, no, no, please also taste, please also touch. There is so much more there. It's exactly like that about our growth. We want to restrict ourselves. And we say, oh, I'm enjoying this, okay, very much. And then I go through ups and downs and all. But I want more of the same. Isn't it? Suppose a person who's only willing to use his eyes saw bad sights, then his theory in life would be, I will be happier if I saw more good sights. That's what his theory would be, right? And he would keep on trying to avoid seeing the bad sides and try seeing the good sides. But you who have access to all your five senses can tell him, that is a way, and maybe you might get a little more pleasure if you restrict yourself to only good sides. But you have four other senses. So why are you stuck on that one? Is that example making any sense? It's a rather silly example, but I hope it's making sense in the sense that it's restricted. Okay, thank you, Sarah. Since I see very few faces and the ones I see all look at me like Buddhas, so I don't know whether this is a acceptable example or not. Remember, these are stupid examples. They're just given to make a point clear.
We got the point, Janki ji.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Deepa. So, as long as the point is clear that when we restrict our growth to more things, we restrict our happiness. And we feel, no, this theory doesn't work. I know what will give me more happiness. If I had more money, or I had a better husband, or a better wife, or a better child, or a better home, or a better health, or corona wasn't there, we are living in a very restricted realm of what we call happiness. This much is clear. Can I go to the next point? Give me a thumbs up, everybody, if this much is clear. Okay, thank you, Jyoti. Thank you. Right. Okay, so this much is clear. Then we go to the next point. Thank you, Arita. Now, next point is, though you claim that particular thing gave you joy, that itself is untrue. That's the next point he made. Though you claim that particular thing gave you joy, that statement is itself untrue. And this is very difficult to solve. First statement was difficult in itself. Second one is even more difficult. This one will say, no, what rubbish. I am enjoying it. Okay, I agree with you, it's restricted. I agree with you, I've not seen so many things. I agree. But I did enjoy it. Who are you to tell me I did not enjoy something I did enjoy? You only told us in the beginning of the class. Nobody can not validate my experience. Now you're saying you didn't enjoy. Both ways. Not both ways. Nobody's saying that you didn't enjoy it. But what is being said is, though you claim that you got enjoyment from the object, you really didn't. Nobody's denying that you didn't enjoy it. But they're denying the causal relationship that we have placed. The causal relationship we have placed is that object caused me joy. He says not at all. The object is incapable of causing any joy to anybody. Shanta, please listen carefully. It is not limited joy. It is no joy, zero joy. Impossible an object can give you joy. No limited joy. That was first point. Listen carefully. First point was that it is limited joy. Second point is, it is, tell me somebody, it is?
No joy.
No joy.
joy.
No joy. No joy.
Yes, yes. Got it.
Zero joy, not limited joy. First time he's being kind to us. He's saying, yeah, you got limited joy. Second time he's saying, you got no joy. Now this is difficult to swallow. Actually, I'm glad you brought it up, because it's forget difficult to swallow, it's difficult to hear. Somebody else also last week told me that yes, we the short-lived joy, limited joy, relative joy. First point. Second point, no joy. It is not capable of giving you joy. To which you will naturally say, that is nonsense because I did enjoy it. How do you know? Last night, we had this wonderful mango cake. It was superb. I loved it. How can you tell me I didn't get joy from it? Of course I got joy from it. So sure, no, you got joy from it? He says, no joy. Okay, now the onus is on him to tell us why no joy. No joy because of this. Fire is hot. Anybody going near fire will feel the heat. You going near fire at any time will feel the heat. If you go in the morning, you feel the heat. If you go in the afternoon, you'll feel the heat. If you go at night, you'll feel the heat, correct? So you know that fire has heat. There's a causal relationship here. Now take that mango cake which you had yesterday. You had the first piece of mango cake and it gave you so much joy. But when you turned to your spouse and said, isn't this a fantastic mango cake? Your spouse said, yes, it's a good mango cake, but I like the Black Forest better. So the same mango cake is not giving the same joy to two different people, right? Then you like the mango cake very much and your spouse didn't like it. Very lucky for you. So you say, ye achhi baat hai. This is nice. This person hasn't liked it. It's all mine. So then you started eating the mango cake. It was so nice. You loved the first piece and you loved the second piece and you loved the third piece and then the fourth piece you felt, yeah, it's really nice. But I didn't, the first piece tasted very good. And then the fifth, sixth, by the time you were coming towards the end of the cake and your spouse told you, better finish this, okay? I don't want it. You just finish it. You said, what nonsense. I don't want to eat anymore. You give it tomorrow to the staff. How come the same mango cake did not give you pleasure later on? How can you find a causal relationship when it cannot be repeated? Is that clear? If the joy existed in the mango cake, then that mango cake must give you and everybody else the same joy. Then you can establish a causal relationship. Ajay, how you contact is not the point over here. That's changing the topic. The point is that there is no joy in the object. Please register this much. There is no joy in the object. Then how did you experience joy in that object? You experience joy in a very strange mechanism. The mechanism is like this. You are sitting here quite peaceful. I believe you are all quite relaxed and comfortable. Now I put a thought in your head. I say, wouldn't it be nice to have some really good chocolate? Or maybe mango cake. You all have started thinking about, oh, this time we didn't get any mango cake. Okay, so what happened? You were quite peaceful in class, and then this mango cake started in your mind. And then there's an agitation. Oh, mango cake, mango cake. I wonder where she got that mango cake from. Do you think it's okay if I ask her where that mango cake came from? It started. Okay, please, I don't know where to get any mango cakes. Okay, the next question is, where did you get this lovely mango cake? I don't know. Just an example. So, mango cake, mango cake, mango cake, mango cake. But go on. My mind will go on. Mango cake, mango cake. You've forgotten all about desire, forgotten all about Vedanta treatise. Mango cake is going on. So you will, since this is not on video, all of y'all are not on video, you'll go to your spouse and you'll say, do you know any good mango cakes around here? Okay, and then spouse being a great spouse will say, yeah, I know, it's really good. I heard that day that was yours. Can you get it? Yeah, sure, I'll just send him. He'll get it in 10 minutes. Oh, really? Oh, great, please get it. So then, no, all this while class is going on, okay? I can't see you also, but I know what's going on here. So, mango cake comes in 10 minutes. By that time, mind is agitated. Everything is gone. Everything is gone from Vedanta treatise. Mind that. Mango cake, mango cake, mango. Mango cake comes. You eat a piece. You eat a small piece. You eat a piece of mango cake and you experience absolute peace, bliss. This is fantastic. Okay, you experience that. Now think of what happened as a what is the mechanism that took place here? A desire popped up in the mind. It agitated the mind. When that mango cake was eaten, that desire was fulfilled. Those agitations subsided, and you experienced what you call happiness. The happiness has not come from the mango cake. The happiness has come from the absence of the agitation. If at that moment when you were agitated about the mango cake, I came and offered you Karela Sabzi, that Karela Sabzi will not soothe the agitations. And therefore you will say, this Karela Sabzi is a source of sorrow to me. Please understand the mechanism. This is what is going on in our life, and we should know what is happening in our life. It's our own life after all. You know what's going on? So now what happens is, since that mango cake soothed your agitation that time, another time you will also try to eat that mango cake, but you were not agitated to begin with about it. And that time you will find that same mango cake did not give you this much happiness. And then you will say, I don't know what it is, That day I enjoyed it a lot, today I'm not enjoying it. Because agitation was not there. The only time you experience happiness, what you call happiness, is when you agitated yourself and then somehow that falls. A madman's game. Agitate yourself, drop it. Agitate yourself, drop it. Agitate yourself, drop it, and say, I'm so happy. Doesn't make any sense. It's like saying, let's throw a mess into the room, clean it up and say, clean room. Now you saw clean room, again throw a mess in it. Again clean it and say, oh, clean room. But it is clean. If you don't put mess in it, it is already clean. There's a placid pond. You throw, what do you call, a pebble into it. It creates ripples. Then you wait that the ripples will subside. The ripples subside. You say, oh, how lovely, placid pond. But if you had not thrown the stone in the beginning, it is a placid pond to begin with. Please understand, you are already happy. You don't have to do anything to gain that happiness. You already are happy. This same state which you are now saying, no, I'm not so happy. Let that agitation grow up. You will come back to this state and call this very state happiness. Oh, how do you know that? I'll tell you how I know that. Suppose right now you are told that something terrible happened to a family member. Mind got agitated. Think of it for a moment. Think of something terrible happening to a family member, somebody you really care about. Mind will get agitated. Now remind yourself, nothing has happened. Now you're peaceful and relieved again. Means you come back to your original state. But this time you call it relief. Earlier you were calling it boredom. Same state. Don't you think it's a madman's game? So what they say is, figure out a way of finding the deeper happiness within yourself instead of agitating yourself and bringing it down to the same level. Go further, no? Instead of, suppose I'm at 60% agitations today. I make them 70%. Then I feel I'm very unhappy. Then I bring them down to 60 again. Then I say I'm very happy. But you just return to this state. So what he's telling us is, bring your 60 down to 50. Then you made some improvement, some growth. That's what he's talking about. Don't run after those objects. Purify yourself. Is that clear? Clear or not? Nobody.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. So now here is a very beautiful poem. Did we start reading it? Did we start the paragraph?
No.
Okay. So let's start it. This is a beautiful. Okay. I hope this concept is clear. That's why I spend some time on the concept. Please be clear about the concept. And because we're going to read the poem that just says it so beautifully. The artists put it so beautifully. We philosophers don't know how to put it nicely, but these artists put it very well. So let's see how they have told the same thing to us. You just studied it through philosophy, now study it through art. Okay, so who's reading this paragraph?
I can read it, Sister. Okay.
Yeah, read this whole page, Sarah.
Okay. Yeah. 1 second. William Cooper portrays the mad pursuits of the human race in his magnificent poem, The Pineapple and the Bee. The poem draws the parallel of human desires with those of a bee. A bee tries in vain to go through the glass frame to consume the pineapples arrayed therein in triple row. After wasting half the day, it takes its flight another way. The poet compares the futile attempts of the bee to a man who desires the companionship of a woman passing by in a chariot. He complains of the chariot glass that separates them. In another comparison, the poet describes a maid's desires for the jewelry behind a show glass. Both man and woman consume half their lifetime pursuing endless desires for peace and pleasure. They crave for possession and enjoyment of worldly things and beings at the physical, mental, and intellectual levels. That is subtly indicated by the triple row of pineapples. Some linger with vain hopes without doing anything about it, while others break barriers and meet with serious consequences. None realizes that the solution lies in looking within. The poet concludes brilliantly that the wise who have imbibed the truths of life can find bliss in the worst of environment and circumstances. The poem, should I read the poem?
That's enough, thank you.
Okay.
Can you?
Yes, Sister Ankia. So in the poem, The Pineapple and the Bee, the poet is comparing man's mad pursuits of his desires to a bee's futile attempts to break through a glass frame to consume pineapples. And then he so basically he talks about the 3 rows of pineapples and he compares that to the endless desires of man for acquisition, enjoyment at the 3 levels, the physical, mental, and intellectual. And then he gives 2 examples. Man's desire for companionship of a woman passing by in a glass chariot, and maid's desire for the jewelry behind a show glass. And then he says, while some maintain hope, yet do nothing, there's others who break barriers and suffer the consequences, and none realize that the solution lies within. And the wise who do realize can find bliss in the worst situation.
Very good. Okay, so what is here? Arita, happiness is probably is within us. Can't be derived from object or people. Arita, that sentence isn't correct. Can you please correct that sentence?
Sorry, ma'am.
You've written happiness is probably within us, can't be derived from object or people. This sentence isn't correct. Can you please correct it? Orally, of course. Now don't go there and change it.
So, I mean, the point I wanted to make was that.
No, wait. Don't say anything. Arita, concentrate. Only correct that sentence. Do nothing else. Everything else you want to do, we'll do after this.
I need to correct this.
That's right.
happiness lies within us,
Yes, very good.
can't be derived from object or people.
Yes, remove the word probably. Where is probably
Okay.
coming
Okay.
in? There is no
Sure.
alternative. If you follow the logic, it's not probably. It has to be so. There is no alternative to this. Okay, now you
Okay.
say whatever else you want to say.
No, I think, yeah, I said that is within us.
Yeah. Okay, Bharat. If lack of agitation causes the illusion of happiness, how is it that repeated contact does not cause that artificial spike in happiness, even when the agitation is very much there? Bharat, I'm glad you people are taking the concept further in your mind. I hope his question is clear. He's saying, okay, so when the lack of agitation causes the illusion of happiness, it's not lack of agitation, Bharat, you said correctly. The drop of agitation, the drop in agitation causes the illusion of happiness. If it is a genuine lack, then you are happy, right? You are already, that lack of agitation exists even now, but you will feel that lack only when it rises and drops. If it doesn't rise, you say this is normal. You don't say, oh, I'm very happy. So it is not lack of agitation, it is a drop in agitation that causes the illusion of happiness. How is it that repeated contact does not cause that? That's very interesting. I hope you have understood what he's saying is. What he's trying to say, I believe, is that you have a desire. The desire is there. That means it's agitating your mind. However, even though you're contacting that object again and again, you're not getting the pleasure, such as your marriage or such as in your home. You've not lost your desire for a home. You're not getting any pleasure out of it. So, how is it that repeated contact does not even cause that artificial spike in happiness, even when the agitation is there? Is Have I understood your question correctly? Even though the desire is there, why am I not enjoying the object? That's your question, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, because Bharat, that brings us to another aspect of desire, which is known as its potency. When you contact an object repeatedly, the potency of the desire comes down. The potency means your capacity to enjoy that object. Um, it is what happens to a drunkard. He cannot enjoy alcohol. It is what happens to us with reference to our homes. We cannot enjoy our homes. So the desire is there. Because sustained contact with the desire reduces its potency. It's called acclimatization or neutralization, where you cannot enjoy that object anymore, even though the desire is there. That is why, even if you wish to enjoy your desires, you will still have to practice abstinence. Because if you don't practice abstinence, abstinence means discipline. I don't know which word to use because all these words have such horrible connotations in everybody's mind. If you don't maintain discriminate contact, even those things which are capable of reducing your agitations will cease to reduce the agitation because it will not have the potency anymore. Is that clear, Bharat?
Yes. I'll think about it. Thank you.
Sister Janki, I have a question.
Right?
Sister Janki, so the same object does not give you the potency of the desire is not the same. So you're left with mental agitation, and contact with the object doesn't work. So in order to sort of fix the situation, for a better word, lack of better word, are you trying to then stop the indiscriminate flow of thought towards the object, working on that so that the desire diminishes?
No, you just avoid physical contact.
But what do you do with the agitation?
You allow
The
the
mental.
agitation to build because that's what you want. The only way we know how to make ourselves happy today is to agitate ourselves. So, okay, let's say a person is a chain smoker, okay, and the moment a cigarette is over, he lights another one. He will tell you himself that he does not enjoy smoking. So now, how? Suppose he say, "I want to bring the enjoyment back into smoking." Now, what will he need to do? I think I'm telling you all the wrong things. Let's, for lack of a better example, now. So what does he need to do? How will he get the enjoyment of smoking? He increases the gap between
Stop
his
smoking
stop smoking, increase the gap. Stop
for
smoking.
some time.
Yes, correct. Abstinence. So increase the gap between two cigarettes. What will happen when you increase the gap? The agitations will rise up. Okay. Now, because we are so stupid, we want this kind of pleasure, which is, it is a false pleasure because you're going to come back to this point, except you're going to now call this point happiness. So agitate yourself. And when you agitate yourself, then you contact the object, then you feel tremendous happiness out of it. And then you say, see, such a great pleasure I get out of it. You know, I'll tell you something. In this country, you knew about it earlier, if not now, that when the maids come to work in our house, we grumble and grumble कि कितना बुरा काम करती है. What, she doesn't do this, she doesn't do this, she doesn't do that. We grumble and grumble about all the stuff coming into our house. Okay. Then COVID hits us. Lockdown hits us. And then we're longing and longing and longing. Oh my God, I don't have any stuff. I don't have any stuff. Finally, one day, it's okay. And the staff can enter the house. Oh my God, the relief of having the maid come into the house. It is the relief that Jaya Bachchan had when she saw whoever it was in that movie. She saw her son coming out of the plane and then, oh my God, he's come. That kind of joy you experience. Now this maid has started coming every day, every day, every day. Okay, 1 month has gone. Now what will you start after 1 month?
Grumbling.
Grumbling again. ये नहीं करती, वो नहीं करती, मैं करती थी, तो ऐसे करती थी, वैसे करती थी. Again you start grumbling. Again lockdown, finished, whole thing closed again. Now what? Again when she
Longing.
comes. Yeah. Do we even realize the madness that is going on? At least see what is going on. You can do whatever you want with it, but see what is going on. Increase the agitation, feel the pleasure. This is a madhouse. We don't want this kind of stuff. It's like telling a smoker, increase the gap between your cigarettes and you'll enjoy your cigarette more. Why do you want to give him that kind of pleasure? The kind of pleasure you should give him is the pleasure that he would get maybe out of better health than out of this agitating myself. You actually see the stupidity of our life. That has to come across to us one day. And then when I don't get that pleasure, how I will cry, how I will cry. As if क्या मेरा पूरा जिंदगी बर्बाद हो गया. Lunatic. I must see my own lunacy. That is what philosophy makes us do. See the ludicrousness of this whole thing. I make myself so miserable. Because only in that misery lies my joy. I cannot have that joy without having that misery. Don't you think it's a pathetic condition for us to be in? A much better way is to do the other thing. Instead of going up, take the whole lot down. No. That's why they say spiritual life will give you pleasure. You're taking it down, it will bring pleasure. You will feel the pleasure. You will feel nice and you're getting better at it. What is this nonsense about taking it up? Clear or not clear?
Yes, Sister Janki, thank you.
Clear.
Yeah. Yes.
Janki ji, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Can we say that we don't experience the same joy over and over when we have the same desire because each time our expectation is higher from it?
It's the same thing. It's what you're doing basically is you're increasing your agitation. Whether you say out of desire or expectation or whatever, now we're discussing mechanism. So what are you basically doing? You're not allowing yourself to come back to the current state. You're taking your agitations further and further up. Sometimes you take them up so much that you take it to a point which is unrealistic. And therefore it will never be met. And therefore you will stay in that agitation. So at the moment we're talking from the perspective not of practical but of mechanism. Is that clear? Okay, Sahadev, is it the law of diminishing returns? Yes, looked at from a practical perspective, yes, it is the law of diminishing returns. But now we're talking about the mechanism of what is going on. How is this thing happening?
Understood.
Got it? Okay, so let's do the poem. I will read the poem.
One question I had, Janki ji.
Go ahead, Alka.
Yeah, so the greater the abstinence, the greater the joy when we get
Correct.
it.
Correct.
So what if we just increase the abstinence to almost like infinite? Would it be then infinite joy?
Yes.
Thank
Don't
you.
say yes because you haven't understood what I said. Okay, yes, you're right. Abstinence is joy. In fact, there is a topic in the book, abstinence is joy. The greater the abstinence you maintain, the greater the joy you will get. Okay. Now, what does it mean, greater abstinence? One way of understanding the term greater abstinence is greater period of time between two contacts. Okay, so you have a contact at time A, time 1. T1 is one contact. T2 is your second contact. This can be any amount of time, 1 day, 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 1 lifetime, whatever. T1, T2. Okay, time 1, time 2. So there is a distance. Depending on what this distance is, the pleasure in this will be higher. If it's a very short distance, the pleasure will be lower. If it's a very high distance, the pleasure is higher. For example, in olden times, men and women were segregated. So the men would be with the men and the women would be with the women. Okay, this was a normal way of life in more or less in large parts of Asia. Now what happens is, or even an Indian joint family system, so there's the whole family there, so you don't have any contact with your spouse. So what happens is whenever the T2 is going further and further away, so whenever you do contact the spouse, for you that's great. That's great. That's fantastic. Okay, so these marriages sort of last. By last, I don't mean that they stay married. What I mean by it is that they continue to find that experience pleasurable. Then we break off into nuclear families where this external and artificial T1, T2 breaks down. Okay, so now they're free to do whatever they want. There's no artificial thing stopping them. So what happens? The marriages break down. By breakdown, please, I'm not talking about divorce here. I'm talking about loss of pleasure. Okay, so assuming, of course, in both cases they are happy with each other. I mean, in both types of marriages, you can be miserable with each other. I'm not talking about that situation. I'm talking about when they're happy with each other. Okay, so as the gap between T1 and T2 increases, the pleasure content increases. Now, what we all think naturally is T1 is first contact and T2 is second contact. Okay? Physical contact. Greater abstinence means there is no physical contact and there is no mental contact. Mental contact means you're thinking about the thing over and over again. So when there is neither physical nor mental contact, you starve that thought. When you starve the thought, the desire has to cease, because desire is nothing but a thought flow. The desire has not been watered, so it starved, it died. So absolute contact reaches you to zero desire with reference to that thing. So therefore, complete abstinence is absence of desire, and therefore pleasure. Clear?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know whether today's class is getting a little too technical.
Janki ji,
May I ask?
Yes, sorry, I don't know who said that.
just one in continuation to what you just said.
Okay, Reshma, go ahead.
Just the last bit, could you explain after the desire reduces? You said it goes away. Just could you just explain that last bit?
See, T1, it is clear to all of us, I believe, that when the gap between T1 and T2 increases, okay, then the pleasure at T2 will grow proportionately. This is clear to everybody. Is anybody unclear about this point? Unclear, anybody? Tell me unclear, unclear. Give me, I don't know, how do you tell me? Give me a thumbs down if it is unclear. Let me go and check all the screen faces. Nobody is giving me a thumbs down, so assumably it is clear to everybody. Okay, fine. So it is clear to everybody that if you increase the gap in time between contact A and contact B, the pleasure of contact B will grow proportionally. This much is clear. Now, what happens in the case of complete abstinence? Complete abstinence means at T2, there is no contact, physical contact, and there is no mental contact. Mental contact means you're not thinking about it, right? So when you have neither physical nor mental contact, you have starved that desire of any force. Remember definition of desire? Thought force. You starved it. It's like a garden you didn't water. So it withered away and died. Since there is no desire there, and now there's no desire means it's incapable of ever agitating you, it's complete joy. So abstinence is complete joy. Complete abstinence is complete joy.
So would it mean in that case that once there is complete abstinence, the desire drops? If I were to contact that object after this, will I experience joy, no joy, or what would be the outcome in this?
At that stage, the absence or presence of the object will not make any difference to your happiness. You're already happy. Today, you're chasing the mango cake because you're agitated. If you don't have it, when you don't have it. Now, think of it like you as an adult playing with that Barbie doll, which you used to love when you were a child. Now you have complete abstinence towards that Barbie doll. Do you enjoy it? That Barbie doll is not what should I say, significantly ever going to create much joy for you, and is impossible, incapable of giving you any sorrow. But are you dependent on that Barbie joy for your doll for your joy? See,
No.
the assumption in your question, Reshma, is always that, oh, I'm losing the joy of that thing. Are you dependent today on the Barbie doll giving you joy? The reason you're not dependent is because you're enjoying better things.
Okay, got it.
This is what happens. It appears to us like we lost joy. We didn't. Like it'll appear to the child, oh, you mean I won't enjoy my doll? My doll will not be my friend anymore? It'll appear like that to the child. That's why we won't grow, no? That's what's stopping us from growing. That's why we are not dedicated to our growth. We can't understand what that means. Who else was saying something? Okay, so let's do the poem. Otherwise, Bharat will.
Janki ji, me.
Okay, go ahead.
Uttara. Yeah, Jantiji. So I just wanted to know that then economics, psychology, and all these branches of knowledge are derived from Vedanta because, like, there is we can say diminishing marginal utility. So that we have already learned, and so we know that if we have this repeated contact with the senses, then we are anyways losing enjoyment. So I feel it's a very common knowledge. So are we dependent on Vedanta for that, or it is derivation of Vedanta only?
No, it is not. See, Vedanta you have to take. If you take Vedanta to mean the truths of life, anybody who starts thinking about it has to come to the same conclusion. What other conclusion can they come to? So you don't have to make a statement that all these economics went and studied a book in which Vedanta is written. No, if they thought about it, they'll come to the same conclusion. Why would it be different? I mean, everybody, like Christ in his time thought of whatever he thought, and Paigambar in his time thought of whatever he thought, and Buddha in his time thought of whatever he thought, and Krishna thought, and Rama thought, and whole world of Emerson thought, and Thoreau thought, and they may or may not have consulted each other's works. But if you found the truth, you have to find the same thing. What else will you find? So that's the absurdity of this whole thing. Like, nobody needs to be derived out of anything. You think on your own, you'll still find the same thing. But we are just blessed and fortunate we have a book to read it through, so that we don't have to put in the kind of effort those people thought. Now we just put in enough effort to understand what they are telling us. Sahadev, how do we take care of suppression? Suppression means that you are in denial of the fact that you want that thing. So suppression won't work. In fact, the poem will cover that now. Two types of ways we deal with this. We are dealing with it wrongly because our starting point is wrong. If our starting point is wrong, how can anything be right after that? So we are getting our starting point right. That's why I did the whole summary again today. So get the starting point right. Once you get that bit right, then you won't contact objects in any case in some kind of incorrect manner. So the poem will tell you what are the incorrect ways of contacting, and then finally what is the right way. One of the incorrect ways is suppression, to just simply deny, I don't want the mango cake. Then get frustrated. When you get frustrated, what happens? You see somebody else eat a mango cake, you'll say, see that person, they're eating a mango cake. They'll make it sound like koi papi kar diya ki mango cake khaya. That is how, this is what happens when you become suppressed. In fact, a lot of religious people talk bad about other people because they are suppressed. If they were genuinely thrilled with life, what is that to say he's doing that, he's doing that? Let him do know if he wants to. What's your problem? Okay. The pineapple and the bee. The pineapples in triple row were basking hot and all in blow. So he's talking about a pineapple pudding. So the pineapples in triple row, 3 rows of pineapple, were basking hot and all in blow. This is a pineapple pudding. What he's describing is a pineapple pudding which is covered with a lid, a glass lid. So there's a triple row pineapple pudding. A bee of most discerning taste perceived the fragrance as he passed. A bee of most discerning taste. उसकी choice भी बहुत खूब थी. So he saw very nice pudding and he's going somewhere else. Usko na lena na dena isse. He had got nothing in the world to do with this pineapple pudding. But he looked and he saw, oh, pineapple pudding, how nice. So instead of going wherever he was going, he took a detour towards the pineapple pudding. And then what happened? Perceived the fragrance as he passed. On eager wing, the spoiler came and searched for crannies in the frame. Very enthusiastically he came. Oh wow, what a lovely pineapple pudding. And searched for crannies in the frame. It was covered, remember, with that whole glass dome. So he's looking for crannies, looking for a way to enter. Urged his attempt on every side. To every pain his trunk applied. But still in vain, the frame was tight and only pervious to the light. He tried to get in, couldn't, because that frame was pervious only to the light. Means only light could get in. In other words, you could only see it, you couldn't reach it. Thus, having wasted half the day, he trimmed his flight another way. And having wasted half the day trying to get into that thing, he found he couldn't do it, and so he had to go away. This is the incident the poet saw, and from this incident he derives a philosophy. The philosophy he derives we will do next time. Hari Om.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Janki.
Janki ji.
Thank you, Janki.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Thank
Janki
you.
ji.
Thank you, Janki ji. Thank you so much.
Janki ji, Hari Om. Janki ji, thank you.
Thank you, Janki ji.
Hari Om,
Thank
Janki
you.
ji.
Hari Om.
Thank you.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Janki ji.
Hari Om. Thank you, Janki ji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om, Anuja.